Good morning, dear Dharma friends. Good for Zoom has sound. I thought I would show you one of the secrets of PIMC this morning. It just occurred to me. I went up to bow and I got close to this gorgeous wooden object, which comes from a little village in Bali called Mas. This is from a roadside stand. But unless you were to come up close, you would never notice that right here is Yoda. So we have several bases covered. We also have a wonderful Mary or Kuan Yin, and we also have Kuan Yin over there. This seems a little boomy to me. Is it loud or is it okay? It's okay. 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 Nice. Thank you for coming. Can you let me see the Zoom participants for a moment, please? Well, maybe I can. No, not that way. The Zoom people. Maybe I can do that anyway, but yeah, okay. I think if I put it on a different setting, I can see the Zoomers too. Hello, everybody. How nice of you to come. Okay, back to me, please. And then pin the view, if you would, or highlight or whatever it's called. There we go. I'm going to see if I can do that. Yeah, that's great. Wow. I received, I'm Robert Beatty, incidentally, those of you that don't know. I'm the founder and guiding teacher of PIMC. Anybody here for the first time? It looks like yes. One. Raise your hand if you would. 2, 3. So a few. Candle, hello. Hi, Candle Summers. One of our esteemed teachers. I have a friend who's my age. We meet every now and then and we talk about our medical conditions. It's actually true. One does that more because there's more to talk about. The what? The organ recital. Yeah. Huh? I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Oh, no, no. It's kind of, he says, he usually talks about his feet. And I usually talk about my back. It's what where it settles in, where the limitation settles in. It would be interesting to say, well, how is your hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin, blood? Which of the 32 parts are a pain in the butt today? Though even wiser would be to say, isn't it great how well it's all working? To have been here. Phew. To have been here this long and to have used this body so fully, and it still works. It's only had a few surgeries. It's only been in the ICU, this one. It's only been in the ICU for a total of 9 days in its whole lifetime. My car's been in the shop more than that. Yeah. So anyway, he wrote me this potent, this came early this morning, it was before I was up even. So there's a brief little text and then there's a poem. Yet another very close friend died recently and unexpectedly. So I've been thinking about death more often. Hope you're well. But the poem is pretty potent. It says this. It's by Marie Howe. This is what the living do. Johnny, the kitchen sink has been clogged for days. Some utensil probably fell down there, and the Drano doesn't work, but smells dangerous. And the crusty dishes have piled up waiting for the plumber. I still haven't called. This is the everyday we spoke of. It's winter again. The skies are deep, headstrong blue, and the sunlight pours through the open living room windows because the heat's on too high in here and I can't turn it off. For weeks now, driving or dropping a bag of groceries in the street, the bag breaking, I've been thinking, this is what the living do. And yesterday, hurrying along those wobbly bricks in the Cambridge sidewalk, spilling my coffee down my wrist and sleeve, I thought it again and again later when buying a hairbrush. This is it. Parking, slamming the car door shut in the cold. What you called that yearning, what you finally gave up. We want the spring to come and the winter to pass. We want whoever to call or not call, a letter, a kiss. We want more and more and then more of it. But there are moments walking when I catch a glimpse of myself in the window glass, say the window of the corner video store, and I'm gripped by a cherishing so deep for my own blowing hair, chapped face, and unbuttoned coat that I am speechless. I am living. I remember you. There are moments walking when I catch a glimpse of myself in the window glass, say the window of the corner video store, and I'm gripped by a cherishing so deep for my own blowing hair, chapped face, and unbuttoned coat that I'm speechless. I'm living. I remember you. So we are living. And we can live in utter fantasy, or we can live in the present moment. And way back 2,600 years ago, a pretty remarkable ordinary human being, Siddhartha Gautama, had an experience. He worked for it, but he woke up. And then he taught for 42 years so that other people could have that same experience. And he said many things. One of my favorites is, the taste of the practice in the beginning is the taste of freedom. The taste in the middle is the taste of freedom. The taste at the end is the taste of freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from suffering. So let's sit together and do this ancient I'll get a little bit of a loose connection or something, I think. Work. Please join with me in turning off your ultimate distractor, the great intoxicant. Let's sit together. Let's notice that the body makes contact with the chair. Let's notice that the hands are alive. In fact, let's notice that the body is nothing but life. It's quite something when one realizes that there's no such thing as a body, there's an experience. There's an experience of life. And there's life in the face. There's life in the middle finger of the left hand. There's life in the left ear. And there's life in the quintessential sign of life, which is breathing in and breathing out. And we can decide, we can take upon ourselves a practice to pay attention to the sensations in the body of in breathing and out breathing. And there's a world of difference, a universe of difference between thinking about breathing and actually allowing awareness and the sensations in the body to meet one another. Thinking about breathing requires a self. Allowing awareness and sensations to meet brings us home. And so let us notice that each breath has its beginning, its rising to fullness. Its decline, and then its vanishing. We can notice much more, of course, than the breath coming and going. We can notice the quiet in the room, or the coming into being of this sound of this voice, and then it's vanishing. We can notice thoughts. In a way, we could describe it that we can wake up in the middle of lots of different kinds of trance states. There's the trance of the past and the trance of the future. There's the trance of worry, trying to solve the problem. There's the trance of the various stories that the mind tells to itself. There's the trance of outrage and fear and loneliness. But always, a tenth of an eye blink away, the body sits here in its exquisite present momentness. And to discover the mind wandering isn't to make a mistake or to have made a mistake. It's not like we did something wrong. It's just what happens. And so we have a compass heading or an intention to stay awake, to use the breath as an anchor, in our world, it's a very unusual thing to stop like this. What are we trying to achieve? Nothing really. Maybe to develop some concentration and give room for mindfulness to blossom. Maybe some love for ourselves and all beings and some compassion. But we don't really do that by action. We do it by allowing it to naturally shine forth. In addition to the details of breath, the body contacting the chair, the world of stories and fantasies and emotions, we can notice the general characteristics of the mind. Is this a mind which is easily concentrated right now? Or is it restless and agitated? Or somewhere in between? Is this a mind which is crisply awake, or is it somewhat sleepy and dull? Is it a mind that has desire, lasting, wanting, grasping? Or maybe the opposite of that, pushing away, disliking, doesn't like what's happening? Is it a mind in which the feeling tone is one of pleasure or displeasure, liking or disliking? Or maybe it's kind of neutral, undecided. At the beginning of our meditation practice, meditation is something, it's like a special activity that we do. I am going to meditate now. Over time, it integrates itself, it insinuates itself into every single activity of our life. We start discovering that we are more aware when we're driving, or we notice how we hold the onion when we're cutting, dicing an onion, or we notice how it is that we step into the shower. Or what the experience is at 3:00 in the morning when the baby screams again. We notice the fact of seeing when the sun comes up. Or the mood with which we sit down at the computer. Mindfulness of breathing is the foundation, the entry point. It's the door through which we discover that our entire life is something that can be profoundly intimate to us in all of its pleasures and pains. sensations of in-breathing and out-breathing, met with bare attention, life, consciousness. Each breath. When we pay close attention, we can notice that each breath has a beginning. It actually doesn't exist. And then it does. And it does, it's in breathing for a while, and then that ends. And then it does out breathing for a while, and then that ends. And as our meditation practice deepens, we start discovering that the same is true for everything. The day has its beginning and its ending. Brushing the teeth has its beginning and ending. Everything. Thoughts have their beginning and ending. Breathing in and breathing out. Sitting. we might honor the body by directing awareness into the feet and legs, the thighs, the pelvis, the pressure of the buttocks in the chair or the cushion, the sacrum, the back, the whole front side of the body, from the pubic bone to the abdomen, solar plexus, chest, from the fingers and thumbs to the hands, the wrists and the forearms and the elbows, the upper arms and the shoulders. It's all alive, isn't it? The breath, the throat, any tension in the throat often is. Coming home to the jaw, the tongue, the lips, the cheeks, the palate in the mouth. The back of the neck and the skull. The forehead and the eyes. In a few moments, a gong will ring to end our session. This isn't the end of meditation. It's the end of this particular moment of meditation, this particular posture, this particular strategy. It could be seen as the opening of the door to the next, which in this instance, I'm going to suggest that you think of a kind thought that you'd like to offer to yourself in the world, like, may there be peace, or may we all be drawn to our inner life, or may we be kind, some inspiring, thoughtful thing. And then with the gong, notice the intention to open the eyes and let them open with great awareness. And then once they're open, take a moment to look around and see the preciousness of the people around you. People on the screen on Zoom. And wish them well. Wish yourself well. There's no hurry to open the eyes. Could you turn on the musician's sound, top left corner? And then when the eyes are open, seeing's happening. And then to the degree that you feel comfortable with it, I invite you to look around, turn around, see. See with a blessing. It's quite a thing to look into someone else's eyes and know that they're probably thinking a kind thought about you. It's a rather nice way to go through the world. seeing. Hello, friends on Zoom. When I look at your pictures, doesn't look like I'm looking at you because the camera's over there, but I am. We have 63 people on Zoom right now. There's about that many here in the hall. Funny, my eyes go to a person that's like, oh, it's Tim. Hi, Tim. Oh, it's Denise. Hi, Denise. I want to say hi to everybody. But hi. Jonas, haven't seen you in a while. We're still alive, old guy. I want to do something here that'll take a moment. This community began taking form in 1979 when I started teaching in Portland. It was the Portland Vipassana Sangha for a long time. We met in 5 different places for years before we bought this place. And we bought this place almost 20 years ago. Tragically, last fall, all 3 of our furnaces died to the tune of $18,500. It takes a big furnace, 2 furnaces to heat this place. And I had always, when I'm giving people the tour of the building, I'd always shown them the new furnaces because we put them in when we bought the building. But now it's the new furnaces. But anyway, there have been so many people help with this. When I speak of this, I always remember, I forget his name. There was a fellow very, very early on. You see this gold board around the top? That wasn't there when we bought the building. And this fellow had the idea it would really help the appearance of the building. And he did it. He was with us for maybe 5 or 7 years, and then he moved on. So many people have come and been part and moved on. But anyway, in this moment, I wanted to thank Paul, who isn't here, but he came to help get the video set up this morning for Trina. I want to thank Trina. Jim, who's going to lead some mindful movements soon. Kendall is here. Would you come up and say something about your teaching in a moment or 3? Connie is here representing the library that she runs. There she is over there. Will you be in the library after? Among the next generation teachers, we have Mish and Trina. Who else? Who am I missing? Guess that's all. On the Zoom, we have Laura, the chair of our board. Great, very supportive friend, very important in our evolution of PIMC. And Allison's here. She's a board member. Any other board members I'm missing? I don't think so. There's a lot of people that make this place run. And there's Doug. Will you come up, Doug, and do a little dance for us or something? One of the things he'll talk about, I imagine, is volunteerism. And this place runs on the basis of... Oh, he did it! Did you get the dance?
It was better on St. Patrick's.
Come over here. Come over here. You ready for him now? Okay, go. Here you go. The dance. Come on. Oh, look at that. Whoa.
Hi, Sangha. Sangha. So a Theravada monk walks into a pizza parlor, and the guy behind the counter says, "What do you have there, Bodhisattva?" He says, "Make me one with everything." Thank you. I'm here every Sunday. So I'm the volunteer coordinator, and we could use some help. So if you some of these jobs we have, if you think, man, I would be so good at that, ask me about it afterwards, or you can go to the website and very short thing to fill out about volunteering. We could use some more AV help, right? Yes, Trina and Paul and Dan and Jamie. How hard is that job? You need a computer science degree. No. Now, I can buy stuff on my smartphone. Would that be enough knowledge? Okay, so most of us have that skill. Connie could use some help in the library. Yes, what kind of skills do you need to do that? Okay.
You have to know your alphabet.
Dewey Decimal System, is that helpful? Okay. So yes, and that's very flexible. A lot of times you could help her out. And it's a great library if you haven't seen it. We have a greeter job that I did. We have the hospitality that you will see afterwards when you have coffee and cookies. That's kind of fun to set up. Very low skill. And then the flower bodhisattvas, Luba is coordinating. If you've got a surplus of flowers or your neighbor does, bring them on up. Thank you. And then some fun things coming up next Sunday, we're having a potluck in our normal hospitality time. So bring whatever your go-to casserole is. It's nice to bring a list of ingredients for people who have food concerns, but that will be a lot of fun. Did you cover Easter?
No.
In 2 weeks, it's Easter, and historically we have not met on Easter. So
That's not true.
is that in the history I have? I'm asking you about this one in 2 weeks, I guess.
I think I'm teaching on Easter.
All right then.
I mean, we'll wait a minute. Let me look. But no, I depends. When it falls on my birthday, that's a different story. But Easter, let me see here. Easter. What day is Easter?
The 9th.
Easter, the 9th. No, I have a meeting then. So
All right, fair enough.
why not? There's a great story about Easter that's worthy of knowing.
And a Saturday, April 22nd, which is also what holiday? Somebody knows. Earth Day, yes, big important holiday. We are going to have a Karma Yoga Day. And there actually isn't any yoga involved. So don't go to Lululemon and get yourself like a cute new outfit. I mean, for that, you can get one, but not for that specifically.
Coveralls. Coveralls.
Karma Yoga means coveralls. But the Karma Yoga title is like activity without attachment, something like that. So you're going to do work here. There's going to be indoor work and outdoor work, and it's pretty fun. A lot of people will come. If you've seen something walking in, go, boy, that needs some attention. You could do that. Anyway, that's 9 till noon. And it'll be in the newsletter as well. So the 22nd, 9 to noon, and pizza afterwards. If you're going to want to work outside, bring your own tools and gloves. Yeah, excellent. That's all I have.
Thank you. I don't know if a dance is required now, if the precedent has been set. Kendall Summers.
Well, my favorite dance is tango, and that takes a partner, so I won't do it up here. Welcome, everybody. I really want to say again, welcome to those who are new or whom I have not seen before. I'm Kendall Summers. I do a few things here and facilitate activities and classes, and I just want to welcome everyone that we practice here together, welcoming each other of every race and ethnicity, our cultural backgrounds, our gender preferences, we have a lot of differences between us, and we come together knowing that there are a lot of pain and suffering that has happened in various groups, and we like to blend together, see each other's differences, welcome each other. And I also want to acknowledge the land that we are on and those who are the indigenous people before us all around Portland who are still under, what would you say? Well, I won't say oppression, but just the acknowledgement that we have, as most of us here in Portland, benefited from the guardian of these lands, the Siletz, the Cowlitz, the Multnomah. Many tribes are here. And those of you on Zoom who are in other places, hi, I see you over there. If you want to type into the chat box the indigenous peoples whose lands you're on, you can see that with each other and acknowledge that. And so the last that's important to acknowledge is those Asian immigrants who came to America and have enabled us to have this practice. They came around the gold rush time, and having established themselves in so many different Buddhist cultures, Thai Buddhists, Cambodian Buddhists, Burmese, Chinese, Japanese. There is every different Buddhist country really represented in America. And so we have this great privilege of understanding this practice through those cultures. And also with some of this in mind, how many of you have been involved in the race inclusion and belonging classes that the DEI group has had? Good. Thank you very much. And we're wrapping up our last one this Tuesday with Larry Yang. We've been looking at the book and asking questions around awakening together. And we have a new round coming up. It will be coming up at the end of April for 5 sessions, and it will be on gender diversity. And so you'll see more about that later. I don't have the writing up on it, but I just wanted you to start thinking about and saving the last Tuesday in April. And also coming up, I believe, we have a movie from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion group. It's the 29th of April, and we're going to show the Dama Brothers, which is a documentary made in the Donaldson prison in Alabama, teaching mindfulness to a group of prisoners. And also we have a Tai Chi coming up, a Qigong Day with Jim, which I believe is April 15th. Thereabouts, the third Saturday. And you might notice on the bulletin board when you go out or at the entrance, you'll see this sort of colorful floral poster. It's sort of a last minute advertising, so I want to just make sure that you know that on Saturday at home, a Zoom half-day retreat from 9 to 2. And I would just like to encourage you to take the time in your day to stop for 4 or 5 hours and just let yourself practice a little deeper. We'll be working with the difficulties of life, how they unfold, and bringing joy into our lives. And so it is April 1st from 9 to 2. Save it.
Low battery. And as they said on Monty Python, and now for something entirely different. mindfulness of movement with Jim Dalton. After that, I will come back and I'm giving I give a Dharma sharing. For those of you in the Wednesday night class, this is a preview. It's on a factor of mindfulness, a realm, a pasture of abiding, a place of paying attention, which is known as feelings. And it's an incredible tool for transforming our lives. It's that's the trailer. So I encourage you to stay, have a little movement with Jim, and then we'll do that. And then at noon, you can go through these magic doors here, and there's an astounding array of very interesting human beings to meet and to have a conversation with. So with that, I invite you to stay where you are. Jim can give you instructions further, and I'm going to have to change the batteries in the battery. Why don't you start with this?
Okay. Why don't we just begin with connecting with our feet on the floor and find the way the center of your weight moves around. And ordinarily, that feels good to move in a circular fashion, that it relaxes the body that's been holding one pose for a while. So it brings a little bit of flexibility into the spine, at least in the lower part of the spine. We're going to rearrange the furniture. Okay. Get me in the middle of the screen. Sort of. There we go. Then one way of loosening up the spine is just like reaching with both hands and bringing the hips back and coming forward. Now, is that a pleasant feeling? For some people, it may not be. If in which case, don't take it personal. I didn't do that to you. But the idea is that what the Buddha said was just have clear comprehension. Is this pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? Now, if you are thinking about where you're going to go out for lunch, it may be neutral. You may have no registration of the different muscles, tendons, nerves, but they may feel good. There was for years I've been doing a stretch where I reach up with one hand and reach down with the other, and I kind of twist away from the upper hand. And it's sort of, it helps, besides the shoulders stretching one after the other, the neck starts loosening up. But then I looked it up on YouTube, several teachers, and they do it differently. Some do differently. They press down on the midline and feel how that stretches the shoulder, and then bringing the other hand over, instead of going straight up from the shoulder, you stay on the midline, and then they look up. That's not pleasant. I don't know why I want to do that. But for people with particular habits of tension, this is probably one way of slowly loosening up the tightness in the neck and the upper shoulders. So, I look at stuff and I think, why would you do that if it's not pleasant? That's just my attitude towards Qigong. It should be pleasant. Moving back and forth, moving forward and back, swinging a little bit. When I first learned about Qigong, the fellow that taught me had me reach across and then reach up and then reach across and turn. So when I reached across with this is my non-dominant hand, my dominant leg, the toe comes up. Then both hands are up and both feet are planted, and then the opposite. Cross over, come back to the center, cross over, and then start tapping. Every time you turn, a light tap. And at first, if you're heavy-handed, it might not be pleasant. But if you just practice with gentle tapping, it stimulates the whole nervous system. It's like this suit of armor. The fascia around the whole body is connected by electrical fields, and you set up a little wave in all the fields. And then pausing, is that pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? Now you've had sensations in your hands for 40 minutes sitting in meditation, but now with mindful movement, there's still waves of sensations in these hands, and I find that pleasant. It was not noticeable to the same degree before, but now. And the same thing with opening the shoulders. Your shoulders sit there for 40 minutes while you meditate, and you may not have anything but neutral feelings about them. But then rotating just a little bit and stretching, bringing more air into the lungs, changes the mood. The whole body feels more pleasant because we're bringing gentle attention to areas that get stiff and then when we stop again, the hands are no longer neutral. Put our attention into the hands. And then relax and go back to moving back and forth. That slow, gentle, rolling movement back and forth, front and back, that gets into the alarm system of balance. There's certain ways. When I first started teaching Tai Chi, the instructor had us test whether we could hold at 17 degrees, and he had a little gadget on the wall. You can't go back 17 degrees because you don't have toes to help, but you get strong toes, leaning into it. And it's just a way of being aware of all the things that are happening in this amazing nervous system that knows when you're at the edge. If you go too far, you're going to have to rearrange. If you go too far this way, you're going to have to rearrange. But there's just a pleasant back and forth. Okay. So then we just relax the wrists. I used the word hands, but I was really feeling my palms. But this is also a way of moving from neutral to pleasant. Stretching, bringing attention to fingers, wrists, elbows, shoulders, and just whatever needs to be moved and released. And I'll see you on the 15th of April with a program from 9 till 1, doing other kinds of Qigong, sitting quietly for a while, just enjoying the pleasant hum of your body. And then I always bring poetry to establish seeds for meditation, just ideas to reflect on. Thank you.
Oops. Thank you, sir. All right. Do any of you drink these poisonous substances? I have drunk a lot of this. When I traveled all around the world, Coke was everywhere. 16 tablespoons or teaspoons of sugar in every one. That's a little bit much. However, for those of you that do, and this, I don't mean to shame you with this, because you can get them, you can take them surreptitiously. Since my birthday party, December the 24th, we've had a bunch of these sitting in the bottom of the refrigerator. So if you would like to, take a plastic bag or a bag and take them home. It would be great. So that's our moment of Donna. Oh, Donna, we forgot Donna. Donna. The elevator Donna pitch. This feels really good. This, when it has to do with supporting something important, feels really good. This, when it has to do with someone on the street who's hungry, feels really good. PIMC exists on the basis of your generosity. Oh, does anyone remember the date of the retreat? The retreat, the monthly donor retreat. May something. There's going to be a retreat here that I will be offering, possibly with some other teachers, for those who are monthly donors. And the way you become a monthly donor is go online and set it up so that your bank account makes a monthly donation. It doesn't have to be big. It can be whatever makes sense to you and whatever gives you pleasure. So that's our inspired by OPB and how to, and you can get this special handbag and this. All right, now. Is there, we have it now, a QR code? Yeah, Venmo is close. We're going to have Venmo very soon, within a week. Venmo for the young people. And those of us attempting to be young. I can do Venmo now. Very impressive. My picture's upside down on Venmo and I don't know how to change it. Come on now. My apologies for tearing this apart, but I have a purpose. This is Daphne. Daphne is the first, where I lost one, oh there it is. Daphne is the first really beautifully scented, it may be the most beautifully scented, except for the Double Delight Rose, which is really my very favorite scent. But if you bring this to your nose and breathe out, nothing happens. If you breathe in through your nose, goodbye. Something happens. I traveled through Afghanistan in 1971. Before the modern wars, there's been wars there for a long time, but before the modern wars, before the Russians, before us, and then I was treated so incredibly well. And I have a photograph of a 6'2" Afghan man with an ancient rifle over his shoulder and a rose in his nose, walking down the street. So he's totally stoned out on the rose with his rifle. It was quite something. But I have a purpose for this. You have inside your face some very sensitive membranes, and they were designed to keep you alive. It's called the sense door of scent. Some of our dogs have a sense of smell 10,000 times more than ours. When they sniff something, it's like they get this huge blast of information. We get a few things, and when you do something, and when you sniff this, I invite you to notice, is it pleasant, unpleasant, or nah, doesn't matter. And to notice particularly also, that experience happens on the in-breath and then not on the out-breath. It's very dependent upon the sense object meeting the sense door, the sense contact door. So I want to pass these around, and please take a few moments with them. Would you give a couple, spread them out in the room? And then I wanted to also take, I had a couple of ideas. One was this. Could you hand me that lovely Kuan Yin? I don't know, there's, what's over here? Is it, yeah, she's beautiful. Okay. And maybe, oh, this should, yeah, let's do it. Why not? Just see. Here are 3 visual objects. Now, you could use me as a visual object for a moment. Please let your eyes close and notice that I disappear. And then let your eyes open, and I'm back. Close again. Open. There is an extension of your brain that comes through the optic nerve, and it has flattened itself on the back of your eyeball. It's actually brain tissue, and it is sensitive not to smell, but to light. I mean, the complexity of who made this thing? It's so utterly, bizarrely complex. But when you close your eyes, the visual object's gone, and then you open it, and it's here. I'm going to pass around these three little objets d'art, and I invite you to hold them for a moment. Let your eyes close, let your eyes open, and to notice the feeling tone when the eye and the object meet, when consciousness and the object meet. Is the feeling tone pleasant, unpleasant, or not yet decided? Making sense? I'm going to speak about this momentarily, but let's pass them this way. And one more thing. This is of course La Pietà. It's the sculpture of Mary holding the dead Jesus. This might have an emotional response, liking, disliking. That's why I hesitated, but why not? Go for it. And I am going to do a tiny adjustment to this sound because it is too boomy for my taste. Tiny. Okay. You still hear me okay? Yeah. All right. This is a very short time to do this in, but I'm going to do my best not to rush. Put these down. I think that'll go away in a moment, I hope. Oh, there it goes. Yay. Okay. Could you give us the Zoom crowd for a moment, just so people can see? No, not this crowd, the Zoom crowd. The Zoom, the gallery, yeah, please. That's me. Now she can. No, I just want to see the gallery on Zoom, but we don't really need to do it. Okay, well, let's not worry about it. Let's do, oops. Uh-oh. Let's find what I'm looking for. That's on the screen now. This is Word. Get rid of Word. Come on. Quit. Save. All right. I've been studying, nope. You what? Oh, I thank you. I need to share my screen with you. So, yeah. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go to this. And now that should be shared. Good? You got it? Okay, you want to turn this off? Please. We have a cool little way she can get my attention if she needs. It's not working. Hold it. Oh well. It's the failure of the system. Oh, there it goes. All right. Aren't we together? Just the sophistication of the presentation is just impressive. Now, okay. Those of you on Zoom should still be available to see on the side there if you want. Now, how long do I have? I have 35 minutes. this teaching of mindfulness is being popularized as stress management. And it's really a useful stress management tool. It's also being broadly taught as a tool for psychological and emotional well-being. Because we can really learn to perceive our psychological and emotional patterns and modulate our emotions remarkably. In 1954 or so, British historian Arnold Toynbee came to. No. Are you getting anxious? Don't go. Oh, you can go if you have to. It wasn't supposed to make noise, but it doesn't matter. I love your purse, by the way. But did you notice? Did you have a reaction? Was that pleasant or unpleasant or neutral? I was at the theatrical play Stomp in New York, which is an amazing, they have a movie of it, it's an amazing thing. One of the best theatrical productions I ever saw. And someone's phone went off, and everyone on the stage went and pointed at the person whose phone had gone off. Heavy. But, so, psychological and emotional well-being, that's a really important thing. Improve our relationships with each other. Become more kind. That's the ground floor. That's the entry point. And I'm very touched by emotion as I talk about this, that I have this sense, and it's happened for decades, but I have the sense that I'm finally getting it. It's like, this is really making sense to me. Not that I can be it all the time, but that what we have, what the Buddha developed, was a technology of consciousness which is about liberation. It's not just about feeling good. It's about moving in the direction of suffering less and less and less to the point of extinguishing suffering. And partly it's as I get older, and I do experience my friends dying, and I experience my own body getting harder to live in, and I experience my own children suffering, and I see the world. This place is a tough place to live, human birth. When Ruth Dennison did the baby blessing for my son Luke, who's now 42, at Brighton Bush way back when, she said, "Welcome to the dukkha planet, you little bundle of dukkha." And it's turned out to be true. Birth, sickness, old age, decay, death, having experiences you don't want to have, not having experiences you do want to have, being with people you don't want to be with, or not being with the beloved. This is all the time. And we deny it. We really turn away from it. We don't want to acknowledge it. And that's part of why we practice, is that we learn to come into relationship with the dukkha. It doesn't mean that everything's bad and awful and suffering, but there is plenty of suffering. And then along comes the Buddha, who says, wait, you don't have to suffer so much. You can suffer demonstrably less by waking up. And so then there's the whole collection of the teachings, one of which is the utter basis of this center, is the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And I'm going to make a wild assertion here. When you are sitting, pardon me, with the intention of keeping awareness on the breath, and the mind wanders off into some story or another, and then you wake up, I assert you don't wake up. I would assert that the consciousness of the universe that poses as you asserts itself, and it's conscious. And that in fact you have nothing to do with it because there isn't a you. Now that's a wild statement. But what if it's true? Handing out that little sculpture of La Pieta. I have a Catholic childhood that I was so blessed in my 50s, I guess. I got to do some training with Father Bernard McVeigh of the Trappist Abbey out in McMinnville. And he was teaching Zen to the monks. And so I got to make friends with my Catholic childhood. And I guess this is coming from the mention of Easter. The story of Jesus dying on the cross and Siddhartha becoming the Buddha underneath the Bodhi tree, it's the same story. It's identical. One's a little tortured, a little difficult. But they're both about somehow or another escaping death, somehow or another transcending the fact of dukkha. So with the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the first is mindfulness of the body. We pay attention to the body, the breathing, the postures, the activities, and we really learn to be attentive to, when the body does this, we notice it's doing this. When it steps into the shower. Funny, I mentioned stepping into the shower because I almost bit the dust in the shower about a year ago. I stepped in and I started to slide, and then I caught myself and I thought, whoa, this is how old people, they die this way. They break a hip this way. We now have a nice bar, but every time I step into the shower, I'm so mindful. It's like, all right, get your center of gravity in here. And my balance is good, but at that moment, it was so close. And this is an asterisk and an aside, but it's intended to save your life. I think I mentioned this already. I was in Costa Rica with my wife Jennifer 2 weeks ago, and we rented a car, and the roads are narrow, and I did a great job driving. I mean, really impeccable, except I was following a truck for a long time, and I was impatient and hungry, and we were on a downhill right-hand turn, and it was a double line, but there was plenty of room, and I thought, I'm going for it. So I pulled out and started speeding up to go past the truck, and all of a sudden, there was a bus coming up in my lane, and he was coming fast. And I made a split-second skier's decision. Do I hit the brake and try to get in behind him, or do I go for it? And I decided the safest thing to do is go for it. All of that in a thousandth of a second. And I went for it, and I was out of the way at least a second, or 2, or maybe 3. That was really dumb. So I just want to lay that in there. Be careful with that. Because it's always right here, right? I apologized to Jennifer again yesterday. She said, yes, I'm glad we didn't die that way. Because we could have. Asterisk back. So, mindfulness of the body. This is the Satipatthana Sutra. Joseph Goldstein's book on mindfulness is exquisite about this. It's part of the course I'm teaching on Wednesdays. There's the second foundation of mindfulness, a second gochara, a second pasture of abiding in which to pay attention, and it's mindfulness of feeling. And it's quite straightforward, but often not understood. So I've made up a diagram here. Oh, I put it on, hang on, how do I get rid of this? There we go. I wanted to put it on this Zen view, as they call it, and then change this to dark, boom. All right. Feelings, the word is Vedana, and it translates badly as feelings. It means more than feelings or it's not emotion, it's the valence. Is this experience pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? If it's pleasant, we automatically want it. If it's unpleasant, we automatically don't want it. And if it's neutral or undetermined, we don't really know whether we want it or not. We hardly notice it. But this is a key piece I wanted to share with you. Sense door contact. It's kind of a weird term. But if you were to think of yourself as, well, let's think of it in the way most of us do, which is that there's a little you sitting up behind the pituitary with your hands on the controls. It's a delusion, but it's common. How do you know how to live in the world? Well, you have sensory devices. One of them is the eye, one of them is the ear, one is the nose, one of them is the mouth, taste, and one of them is the body for feeling, for touch, and another one is the mind. And each one of them has their sense door contacts. Now, we've been specialized as humans. Our sense doors are specialized for the way we live. If we were hummingbirds, we'd see into the far ultraviolet, because the flowers help them. And here's something that I find very fascinating. When I'm speaking, it probably hasn't occurred to you that the sound isn't coming from my mouth. You're not hearing a sound you're hearing a sound from that, which is a very exquisitely designed speaker for this room. Now, we don't know, we have 2 ears, but they can't tell anything for up and down, because our predators didn't come from up and down. Our predators came from around here on the ground. And if I were to go, and you might be able to discern that, because we can really tell where's the predator coming from. We have binocular eyes, 2 eyes, because it gives us 3D, and we can tell how fast the predator's coming. And the reason I'm using predators is because that's how we were sorted and how we were pruned. Those of us that didn't get that didn't get to reproduce. So it's life and death. So we have this sense door, I'm going to go through them here in a minute. And we go over here, and we have an eye, an intact eye, and we have visual objects. Close your eyes, the visual objects are gone. The conditions, hang on a second. Hurrying. If I'm hurrying, what am I teaching? This doesn't matter. I'm teaching anxiety. I'm teaching that we have to hurry. I'm modeling it. And we model ourselves on people that get in roles like this. So I'm going to slow down. Less content maybe, but I feel better. So there's still remnants of it. I get so jazzed up. It feels like life and death. What if I don't do it right? What if I don't succeed? What if I'm not good enough? Well, that one sets off a little teariness. What if I'm not good enough? I'm as good as I am. This is I bought 2 books years ago. I never read them, but I liked the title so much. One was, I Ain't Much, Baby, But I'm All I've Got. And the other was, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. Huh? Is it? Okay. Whew. There's an intact eye and visual objects and light. And it leads to visual consciousness. There is a sound, there's an intact ear, and that leads to auditory consciousness. Now it seems arcane. Why say visual consciousness and auditory consciousness? Because this is prying away at the fantasy that we have, that there is an I behind my pituitary. I am seeing, I am hearing. When we take the meditation and we dig down deeper and deeper, we start noticing that objects arise and consciousness arises, and there doesn't have to be a someone. It's just nature. There's olfactory objects, smells. You got a beautiful example of that. There's taste objects which contact the tongue, sweet, salt, bitter, umami, which is the taste of MSG. We put it affects many of us badly, but MSG is a great thing to add to food because it's a whole section of the tongue that doesn't get stimulated otherwise. And taste consciousness. And then, there's the body touch. I just couldn't find the right picture for this. Was it a massage? But it's... You what? It works for me. It works for you, okay. Which is a mind object, it's a pleasant mind object, and then there's desire. It could be, or this could be quite a turnoff as well. So, touch objects and touch consciousness. And I put this, there's a little note here, which is, there's more to this than touch, because the proprioceptive sense is this too. That we can tell, I can tell where these fingers are. It's so remarkable. And then I didn't know what to put here, mind objects, because the whole universe is mind. And then there's mind consciousness. Now, come on now. All right. There's another step in each of these. Yeah. It's got this piece is stuck here. Oh, it's not going to let me get rid of it. Okay. There's visual objects, visual consciousness, and then there's a valence. Every visual object has a valence. Valence from chemistry, which is some atoms have a positive valence, some have a negative valence, and when you put a negative and a positive, they come together. But for us, it's pleasant, unpleasant, and indeterminate. And I can demonstrate it a little bit like this. Are we on musical? Zoom has a setting that if you don't have it on, this sounds like a clank. Pleasant, unpleasant, or indeterminate? Raise your hand if pleasant. A lot. Pleasant, unpleasant, or indeterminate? Sorry. That happens all day. I am sorry, that was kind of extreme. I didn't mean it that hard. With that little Daphne, on the in-breath, how many experience that as pleasant? How many as unpleasant? And how many, so two or three, and how many as who could care less? So that's a pretty powerful response. Now, with the two of you that experienced it as unpleasant, it would be interesting, and we can't do it now, but is there an association with it? What is that conditioning? Or is it just an unpleasant smell for you? And there's not a right or wrong, because there's many, like we've come to taste, there's many tastes that we learn to like. They're called an acquired taste. For those of you that have smoked in your lifetime, the first time wasn't very good. It's like, pugh. But then there came a time when it was like, whoa, wow, I just smelled some cigarette smoke. I got to get some of that. And the same is true with many things. We acquire a taste for them. Each of these sense doors has, I just did that experiment with pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral sounds. Certain music is so pleasant. Other music is like, eh. In the year 2000, I fell in the mountains and ruptured my quadriceps tendon. They all pulled off my right knee. And I was there some hours, and then a Black Hawk helicopter appeared it came in under the clouds and came over, and I happened to have a little flare gun, and he came, and a remarkable young man came down with a stretcher and a cable, and they put me in, and they took me up and flew me to Madigan Hospital. I love helicopters. The sound of a helicopter is like, oh, there are a lot of people on this planet for whom the sound of a helicopter is terrible PTSD, because it means the killers are coming, and they killed my mother. So these feelings are conditioned. Some of them are built in as humans, but we learn some of them are like this, like the gong, the nice gong. For me, I have sat so many thousands of times. That nice gong means, oh, I can start to meditate now. That's nice. So going down, taste consciousness, touch objects. There's nice touch, and then there's being cut. And we're hardwired to want to get away from cut and burn, because those of us that didn't get away didn't survive. It's all about survival and life. Okay, mind objects. So I want to dwell here for a minute. Do you have a favorite place in the world? Maybe a beach that you really love to go to, or is there some place that when you close your eyes and imagine it, it's like, oh yeah. Or is there some place that is kind of unpleasant to think about? Or is there some person who, when you think of them, it's just easy to love them? This is one of the ways of practicing loving kindness meditation. One of the ways I do that is I remember holding my babies, my own children, when they were little. When my son was little, he was the first, I would play the music of Cosmos from that TV series, this big music, and have him on my chest, and he would fall asleep. And I wept and wept and wept and wept. It was so, I missed out on a lot of that as an infant, and it was very comforting. Now, gently, is there someone, the thought of whom is off-putting? Perhaps someone from the news. Or maybe a family member, somebody you're having a war with. Pleasant, unpleasant. And we tend to, we move naturally toward the pleasant. Okay, now do I want to do this other piece here or not? I forget. Ah, yeah, here we go. If the valence is positive or negative or neutral, we tend to be drawn to the pleasant objects. We are pushed away by the unpleasant objects, and the neutral objects we don't really notice. These Vedanas lead us to action, and we move toward the positive. All drugs of choice, all addictive substances of choice, have a particular similarity to each other, which is that their onset is fast. You know, when you take the drag on the weed, or when you snort a little coke, or when you inject something, it hits the brain like that. The area of the lungs, with all those little alveoli, if they're flattened out, is the size of a basketball court. Right? And the distance between the THC molecule and the bloodstream is one cell, and it's wet. And so, boom, it comes on quick. No one, well, sugars are another story. We addict to them. We addict to all kinds of things. But these drugs of choice are all sudden. And we discover that if I'm having a bad feeling, let's say a bad mood, I can move toward a predictable, pleasant state by ingesting this substance. Think of how different that is from I'm a meditator and I'm feeling that old depression coming on, or I'm feeling my mind is kind of out of control, and I'm having attack thoughts, enemy images happening, and it's just a crappy moment emotionally. What a different thing to reach for one substance, or to say, okay, I am going to do what the Buddha proposed, and I'm going to learn to get centered and turn toward this. And I will turn toward it so fully that I will discover that it's painful, but there's no suffering in it because it's not personal. That's it. It's an utterly life-changing phenomenon. I've taught quite a few people, many hundreds of people, how to meditate with pain, but I've taught a few people who were dying, actively dying in hospice, how to turn toward, for instance, the metastases of cancer in the spine, where the spine is exploding from within. And they're on a pump, and they can't find any peace. They're either unconscious or in agony. And people in such circumstances, if so motivated, can learn to turn toward that pain and discover that the pain is not the problem. It's the resistance that's the problem. It's the psycho-emotional, spiritual resistance that's the problem. And that's true for all of our suffering. It isn't the pain, it's the self that resists. So this is not a lightweight teaching. This is what sets us free. And there's a quote from the Buddha here I want to share with you, if I can get it to move. Bhikkhus, practitioners, students, the underlying tendency to lust should be abandoned in regard to pleasant feeling. The underlying tendency to aversion should be abandoned in regard to painful feeling. The underlying tendency to ignorance, delusion, should be abandoned in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling. When a person has abandoned these underlying tendencies, then they are one who sees rightly. They have made an end of suffering. All right, come out of here. There we go. So, Vedana. How can we practice Vedana? It's a huge, wonderful practice. I woke up this morning. I worked in the garden yesterday, not for long, an hour and a half. My body was so sore this morning. It didn't used to be like that. But getting out of bed there was enough discomfort already that there was reticence to get out of bed. And I knew I was talking about Vedana today. And I thought, the Vedana of this moment is unpleasant. And it's having an impact, which is I don't want to get out of bed. And then as I was getting ready, I realized, I'm a little hungry. And that hunger is unpleasant. And it motivates me to do something, which is go make a little breakfast. And then a way that you can practice Vedana that I really like, I teach this always on retreat. Get your food, sit down, and maybe there's 6 different items. Look from one item to the next and see which one you want most. Right? Let's say on your plate, there's a ripe strawberry, or in my case, a really fine green olive, or look, and you're watching my face, or a pile of white rice. Filler. And it's right there. Or you walk down the street and the Vedana of contact with people's faces. One person, it's whoa, unpleasant. Another one is like, ooh, wanting. Or someone else, we have categories of people we don't even see because they don't have a positive or negative valence. They're just kind of people. Another piece to know is to watch how the Vedana arises spontaneously. You don't choose it. It's conditioned. And there's this intersects with an amazing teaching on the 12 steps of dependent origination, which is Vedana drives the world. Vedana is the Bhikkhu, forget his name right now. One time I listened to it with Ruth Dennison late into the night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. She had a tape of Bhikkhu Buddhadasa speaking about Vedana and describing how Vedana runs the world. We invade people's lands because our oil is under it, because of Vedana. We want to feel secure. We want to have our central heating. Putin, that poor psychopathic, crazy, tragic figure, he has a delusional fantasy about the great old Russia, and he's scared because NATO has been pushing in. He has a whole world of ideas, and his feeling insecure is killing tens of thousands of people. Vedana. He's doing what he's doing to try to feel better. So, again, this is not a lightweight teaching. This is to be able to know the Vedana that's arising allows us to make much more skillful decisions. I'm married. I live with someone that I know really well. And last night, we watched the Blues Brothers last night. Strange, fun. But I had the control and I was trying to get the TV to work. And she was impatient because I wasn't succeeding. And I could feel her impatience. And I'm frightened of her impatience. Little Bobby is frightened of that. And so the Vedana was unpleasant, and I was watching that. And the impulse to hand her the controls and say, have a nice evening, I'm not doing this, was very clear over that. Right? Small things. We're provoking each other's Vedana all the time. And we have all these fantasies that further provoke them. So I would say this, start small, but make Vedana really a part of your practice. Like right now, what's the feeling tone of your experience right now? Are you impatient? If you could be easily, it's like, God, is he ever going to stop talking? Right? It's almost 12. He should be done by now. The Vedana of impatience is, the Vedana of impatience almost killed Jennifer and I in Costa Rica. The unpleasantness of being behind that truck, the meaning I made of that. So this is a life-changing practice, Vedana. Okay. Do you have a plan for this afternoon? Chances are it's probably because there's a possible pleasant Vedana. Jen and I are going to Kornblatt's, which is closing in just a few days. So what are you going to do? Is it pleasant? There might be you might have a conversation you need to have this afternoon that's going to be unpleasant, and you could avoid it if you don't know there's an unpleasant Vedana, or you might say, well, this is something I've got to get done. Okay. Well, let's close in the very simple way of chanting Om together. No, let's do this. A Sufi practice. There's the sound Hu, which is the sound of the heart. Hu, and then there's Ah, which is the sound of the throat. Ah, and then there's Om, which vibrates the top of the head. And we'll go Hu, Ah, Om, and we'll do that a few times together. And then let it be a free Hu, Ah, Om, and start breathing when you feel like it. Okay? And then and those of you at home, please feel free, unmute yourselves. You'd hear each other. We wouldn't hear you here, I don't think. And then there will be a gong, and then there will be a procession through into the coffee, tea, and friendship realm. All right. So feel it vibrate in your throat, and then your forehead, and then your crown. Big, deep breath. Oh, and notice the Vedana of this practice. It could be pleasant, it could be unpleasant, and it could be indeterminate.
Oatmeal?
May all beings everywhere share in the merits of
Or are
our
you going out with your friends?
May we be called to our practice. May we remember to wake up in the midst of all kinds of different activities and notice their valence, their Vedana. So thank you, dear friends, for coming. Those of you in the hall, those of you on Zoom, can you take us back to the Zoom view? Or I can take myself back there, I think. Okay. Have you got Zoom view now too? Oh. All right, thank you so much. And notice when you get up, is it pleasant, unpleasant, or indeterminate? Goodbye, Karen. Nice to see you. Hello, Elwin and Amanda and Sherry and Joan and Linda and Jai. Hi, Jai. And Dave and Lou and Peg and Laurel and Liz and, oh, there's Trina. And Frank and Rachel. Kimberly, I don't remember who I got. Okay, bye-bye, take care. Oh, there's Amanda again. Yep, okay. Bye, Linda. Here we go.